AOC's mad, but they're mad on MSNBC as well, which I know is not news to you. But news anchor Alex Wagner reckoned that JD Vance's desire to be buried with his ancestors, I would have thought that's fairly normal. But no, that makes him a misogynistic white supremacist. Have a listen.
I sort of understand the idea of sharing the burial plot, but it also it reveals someone who believes that the history that the family should inherit, and indeed the history that should be determinative in the story of the Vance family, is the history of the Eastern Kentucky Vances, and not the Vances from San Diego, which is where his wife is from and where her Indian parents are from.
Brad, I'm convinced racism only continues to exist in America because the left are so determined to keep it alive.
Yeah, look, they keep doing this where they make everything about white men and maleness and white supremacy when it's actually not. And in throwing around those terms like candy on Halloween, they're diluting them of their meaning, and they're just further reinforcing the divides between groups and making these things into exponentially bigger issues than they actually have to be. It is patently absurd. It is ridiculous to suggest that wanting to be buried where generations of your family have been before you have been laid to rest somehow makes you a white supremacist or a male supremacist. I mean, JD Vance's wife is a second-generation Indian immigrant. So her parents, she was born in America, but her parents came here from India. So there is no plot with 6 generations of that side of the family for them to be laid to rest in anywhere in the US, which is where they live and have built a life. So the idea that, well, wanting to be buried with his family and not hers is white supremacist or something is ridiculous. It's a completely unreasonable thing to say. And to me, it just shows how hopelessly out of touch these MSNBC cable news liberal elites are with the American people, because millions of Americans surely feel the same way as JD Vance, but don't have a racist or sexist bone in their body. And they really are diluting these accusations of their meaning by just overusing them ad infinitum. It's really something to behold, guys.
But even, speaking of MSNBC, Brad, Joy Reid, for example, she was out there comparing Joe Biden's COVID diagnosis to Donald Trump being assassinated. I'm not sure how she could possibly draw a parallel, but how embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing. And that's the thing. I can understand as an opinion host on television having your opinions, right? That's what we do. But I can't understand debasing and humiliating myself in such a pathetic and partisan manner to shill for one side with kindergarten level logic in the way that these folks do, the Joy Reids of the world. I mean, I just saw her talk about how the black people who support Trump are just white adjacent. It's really something. I mean, they can get away with anything. They really can. I mean, and whereas, of course, right-wing media or conservative media here in the US is constantly put under a microscope, they can say the most absurd and ridiculous and nonsensical things on MSNBC or CNN, and they'll either get no scrutiny for it in the mainstream press, or they'll just applaud them and lap it up. It's really quite something to see how ideologically captured the mainstream media is.